You have to go live on there still.
Oh, that's right.
Almost there.
All right, now we should be good.
That should pop up in a second here.
Oh, wait, there we go. Oh, there. Okay, we can hear me.
Oh.
Okay, are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Well, hi everyone, and welcome to this weekly Wednesday live stream. As you can see, we're still upstairs in my work office. We decided to do streams from here again. As much as I love the basement, I love seeing outside and having windows more. So we're slowly turning this room into more of a recording area. So we started putting ceiling tiles on this morning that are like the soundproof ones, but I thought I got a lot. I only got about half of the ceiling.
We're close.
So the echo will hopefully continue to go lower and lower as we continue to do these streams. I'll try to talk a little softer like I am now. Usually I'm a little louder, but I'll try to keep it down for you guys. And today is pretty fun. I have Josh with me today. And before we do the official start, if you want to put where you're watching from, we'll give some shout outs and kind of give people a couple minutes to join in if they're running late. And that's usually my job to run late. So if other people are running late, we'll give them a moment to catch up, and then we will dive into our Ace of Pentacles.
Ooh.
Yeah, right. I'm pretty excited about this. Me and Josh have been getting way more into tarot the past, let's say even like a couple months.
I mean, you've been a lot longer. I feel like the last 2 months now I've really gotten more of an understanding of it at least, which has been good.
Yeah, because Josh and I will do readings for our friends and some of our family members now. And I feel like every time you do a reading, you learn so much more. And especially if you see a repeat card, I feel like that connection to the card and the meaning just grows stronger and stronger. And we'll talk about it more later on, but we did a reading last week, and it was like a 2.5-hour reading. It was really long. But now I cannot see Queen of Wands or Queen of Cups and not think of the person we did it for. So we'll dive into that later.
That's really cool.
It was amazing. It was amazing. People were in tears. It was good. All right, can you guys hear me all right? Me and Josh?
It should be good, yeah. We have Asa from Vancouver, Washington. Hello. Carlo from Croatia. Croatia's where I want to go for our honeymoon.
I mean, yeah, I told him wherever he wants because I'm not particular.
Catherine from El Paso, Texas. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, guys.
I think I got the hello from you now.
Hello,
I
hello.
will do that all the time. I'll be like, hello,
I mean,
hello.
I wish I could say I was original with it, but that's definitely from RuPaul. Yellow,
Is that
yellow.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
Yellow, yellow, yellow. Well, he does it 3 times, but whatever.
Leticia, hello from Brazil.
Oh, hello, hello.
Welcome.
I know I didn't market it on our Discord, which I normally do, but if you want to join our Discord and find out when future streams are, or if there's other big events like a Kickstarter or an event that we're planning with the Discord, you can join that below and keep the conversation going. I usually do pop in there when I'm not crazy busy, but I'll usually share like what I'm listening to, what we're watching, things like that. And then just good inspiration books that I find. And I actually have a couple that I want to talk about. Really silly looking ones on the cover, but I think they're fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So you got my name right in the first try. Yay. Phew. I'm really bad with names sometimes too.
Okay. I guess we'll do the official hello, and then we'll kind of dive into it. So, hi everyone, I'm Timothy Von Rueden, better known as Vonnart Online, and I'm joined by my boyfriend Josh, who will be acting as moderator today, and we are going to be working on the Ace of Pentacles. So yesterday I probably should have brought this up here, let me pull it into this file. So yesterday I did the Queen of Wands, or finished the Queen of Wands. I didn't do this in one day.
Oh my gosh.
Right, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was Queen of Wands. So this is one of my favorite cards to do, but I figured going into the stream, since I didn't do a tarot reading for myself, I usually pick a card from that reading to do next, but I figured we might as well do Ace of Pentacles because I already did the other 3. So as you can see over here, I did Ace of Wands, Ace of Cups, and Ace of Swords. And Ace of Cups was actually my first card that I did, and honestly was kind of the reason I thought I could do a tarot deck, because the original Rider-Waite, I don't have it in front of me, but the card for King or Ace of Cups is just gaudy. It's beautiful. There's so much symbology to it. A lot of water and like a golden goblet. It's like right down my alley, and it got me really interested in not only learning tarot but actually creating a deck. So this card I have a lot of good feelings about, and then I decided to kind of go through the 4 aces And the only one I haven't done is Pentacles. Part of the reason is because I didn't know what I wanted the actual coin to look like. So we're going to kind of, brainstorm some today, and I'll kind of show my process of thumbnailing, doing a few different ones, and then trying to figure out what type, not only of coin that I want, how big the star will be. Do I want there to be overlapping sections? Do I want it to look more metallic? Do I want it to be more matte? And these are all good questions to have, because this pentacle is going to be on like 15 of the cards minimum. And then there'll be in like a few random ones like the magician, and I just found out the devil. It's a pentacle, but still has that same star symbology. So we'll go ahead and do that. But before we start, we were up north this past weekend, and I know these books look kind of silly, like clearly meant for kids, but the art on it, do you see this like little fairy?
It's so cute.
They're excellent. And if you take a quicker look, you can tell that the fairy is actually the flower that she's holding. It's upside down and like slightly wilted. And they do that throughout the book. Maybe just pull open this page. I think this kind of really sold it for me, were the stickers, where you can see how this artist interpreted a lot of these. And I just thought it was excellent. Just so good. And I kind of want to draw my own little fairy that's based on a flower. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see that sometime in July. But for today, we are going to do the Ace of Pentacles. So I'm going to be doing this on the Cintiq, and kind of like we always do with these Wednesday live streams, if you have any question or comment, even if it doesn't relate to tarot or what I'm working on or the art industry in general, any question is valid and we'll do our best to answer it. And normally they usually take a turn down like art business and things of that nature, or just creating in general, or inspiration. So literally anything's on the table. That's why we're here. And it always is a fun time with you guys. So I'm looking forward to this. So as I get started, just please put either at vonnart or at schwa, and that way he can see it even better. I mean, normally when I do these alone, I really need you guys to take my name before doing it, or else it'll be really hard to see because then my concentration is constantly shifting. But with him here, I can really focus on the drawing today. And I'm trying to think if there's any other announcements. I think we're good. There's all the links below, and then if at any point you want to either donate to the stream or have access to the exclusive YouTube emojis, there's links to that below as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get started.
Sergio says, "Sir, that book is for kids, vonnart, but it has stickers."
I mean, not wrong.
That was kind of you in the store.
Yeah, right. I should also mention, at some point I'm going to have Josh take a picture of my own hand and kind of show you guys how quickly you can take a reference and then integrate it into your work. Because all of these ace cards, well, actually, I guess, yeah, we can get into that now. All the ace cards have kind of this big floating hand, and there's a lot of different meaning or representation that I've heard listening to YouTube and reading books about, but a lot of them are that it's like a force greater than yourself, and it's like handing you something. And whether it's a wand, a pentacle, a knife, or a sword, whatever, it is like the start of that specific journey. So Pentacles is probably the one I know the least about, so I did some like quick training this morning. And basically, I always knew it was the element of earth, and it kind of makes sense that like the coin represents material goods, but it's related to earthly material realm as well. But I also found out this morning it might not only mean like wealth, it could mean like your health, so like physical health. So it relates to a lot of physicality, and this one specifically is a really good one, as it shows that whatever path you're going down, whether it be wealth or health, it's going to be like a luscious one. And that's represented by what I just found out too is the Garden of Eden, or just if you don't want to interpret it that way, just a very lush garden. And I also found out there's these lilies in the front, white, representing innocence as per usual, but one of them is in the shape of a cross, which could represent like a physical dying and then going into the eternal realm of the afterlife, whatever that is. But honestly, tarot is so interpretive that it depends on who does the reading and who's receiving it. And I that's why I love tarot too, because it's just vague enough where like skeptics can be like, oh, well, all the cards are relatable, but that's kind of the point. And it really is up to whoever's receiving the reading to like pull out of their own experience and get the most out of it. So for Pentacles, I do want to represent it as a coin. You can see all the examples I like quickly pulled on Pinterest and Google really quick. And there's a lot of different ones that I kind of like. I really like the very shiny one. Here, let me make my brush size really big. Because I kind of like the idea of it being obnoxious and like metallic. The only thing I don't want it to look like is this. If it looks like a coin from a video game like Mario, I think I kind of missed the mark, and I don't want it to look too kiddish. So I want to kind of find a balance. I really like this one, even though I'm not crazy about the animals and the grapes. I love the way that that was rendered and have the star really kind of shine against like a slightly darker metallic recessed part of the coin, and then have the rim be brighter as well. And honestly, even though I would never make like a zombie deck, it wasn't so much the subject matter that I liked as it was how far out they kind of pushed the actual star part of the pentacle, and having that kind of like hard recessed, kind of like the pins that we do, the metal pins that we do. And then I do want kind of the patterning where they're lacing over each other, kind of like a Irish Celtic pattern, but in a star form. And then lastly, I kind of like this almost super earthy looking coin too. I mean, we're not doing color with this tarot set, but I kind of like the idea of the pentacles not being gold, which is strange for me. I kind of like it being more rocky looking, but since we're doing grayscale anyways, it doesn't really matter. But when I'm looking at the pentacles, I might interpret them as more like rock. But everyone else will see it as like a gold coin, even though it's grayscale. But I like the interpretation of that, especially the more I learn about pentacles, really not representing wealth so literally. I think this is more of a good interpretation for it representing like earth or like earthy material things. So that is what we're gonna be doing today. I'm pretty excited, and yeah, I'll kind of show you how I usually start my tarot cards, because you guys probably know I do them in pencil, but I usually do the underlying drawing, and I have some examples too, digitally. So this was an example of, so this is what my digital sketch looked like for the hangman, and I usually work on the iPads, but today I'm working on the Cintiq. And then I'll print this on my sketchbook paper. I'll print it at like between 2 and 5% opacity, so like barely there. And it kind of helps me structure the foundations of the drawing. And that way when I'm doing the pencil, I don't have to focus too much on making things feel in proportion and correct, because I have that digital, very light foundation to build upon. And I think I actually have Queen of Wands on here. Yeah, so you can see my initial Queen of Wands looked way different than my final one. But it is nice having that placement and then printing it really light, and then, you know, making small changes as we go. Because originally I had I thought it was like a banner, but I kind of made it part of her throne. It really looked identical to the Rider-Waite deck. But then I realized, you know, with each card, I do want to throw my own interpretation while still staying true to the meaning of the card. So the ending, you can see, was different, and I made it look more like a throne, but I still kept the lions, I still kept the sunflower that they're holding, and you'll see those little changes throughout the cards that I do. And since Queen of Wands is like an abundance of strength and confidence, and Wands is a fire card, represents the element of fire, so with the throne I'm included that like sunflower in the middle, these two lions still holding it, but then it's just radiating like confidence and fire, because that's how I kind of interpret fire. I always see it with like the sun. I see those two very much like hand in hand. So when I did the throne and representing fire, I wanted it to feel like a sun just like blazing on the back of the throne. So those are like the small changes that I made. I don't think with the Ace of Pentacles we're going to be straying too far from the original meaning. And I loved the original Rider-Waite deck so much that I don't want to like take it in such a new direction that it just like doesn't hold the original meanings anymore. So anyways, I'll stop jabbering, I'll start drawing, and Josh will then go ahead and start getting the questions going.
Yeah, let's take a look here. Let's see, Carlo. Carlo,
Can you hand me
actually,
the tape really quick, actually? Right
am I
behind
not
you.
seeing
Sorry.
it? Oh, okay.
I was gonna reach behind me.
Where's
Like, I
the
might
tape?
tip over.
Carla says, if you actually decide to come to Croatia, make sure to stay in some city on the coast like Split, Pula, or Zadar. Architecture there is amazing and the beaches are mesmerizing. I would
Good to
love
know.
that so much. Yeah, no. I feel like that's definitely where we're gonna end up going. That and like then we can visit Italy or somewhere else that we've always wanted to go to.
Yeah, I definitely really want to go to Italy.
Ank says hello from Quebec. Hello, Anks.
Hello, hello.
Shan says, what brand adhesive do you prefer to use for your gold leaf? Is it consistent or do you use what you can find?
Oh boy, I know. Was it the glue they said?
Yeah, the adhesive. Yeah, they.
It's in the basement right now. It's honestly one that in the States, I shouldn't be shopping at Hobby Lobby because they're not the most like gay friendly, but they do have really good glue for gold leaf. I'll have to post in the Discord after the stream's over, but it is a very basic glue. And then I learned now to tint it with like a drop of ink, whatever color you prefer, I guess, and then mix it all together. That way, when you're laying down the glue, you can see where it is. Because for the longest time, I was kind of eyeballing it.
Oh yeah.
And then once I
hard.
realized you could tint it just slightly, you can see where the glue is, and you just make way less mistakes, which is what I was struggling with before.
Asa says, speaking of gold leaf, last time we talked, we were discussing your reference book for illuminated manuscripts and illuminated letters. Then we got distracted. Do you have that book or title?
Oh, actually,
Can I grab that one?
yeah.
even?
Can you grab that
Yeah,
one? So
where's
it's
it at?
it's in my personal library. In behind the animal skulls, and it's a thicker book, and it says illuminated.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about. Be right back.
So then while he's getting that, so as you can see, I'm kind of just lightly sketching the elements that I want at play. And a lot of this is mostly for proportioning. And you know what I really should be doing? If we're working digital, you might as well use the tools at your disposal. I might make the coin a little bigger though. Don't want to fill. Make the stroke like 3. There we go. And the clouds that I want to create, I will probably keep pretty much consistent and in line with the ones I previously did. So you can see the Ace of Wands that I did over here, and then I'll kind of do the same swirl patterns over here. Okay, I'll let you show that off then.
All right, so this is, it's not mirrored at all, is it? It might show it mirrored, but so there's the book. I'll write it out in the chat as well too, so you can know the author.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if any of you are interested in like old storybook lettering to like start off a page, I definitely did, how many? I feel like I did 7 in my last book. I love the look of it. It has that old fantasy feel, and it's always nice seeing reference of it because it helped me definitely understand lettering and how to really incorporate more bold face type while still being legible. So yeah, I definitely would recommend this book. And I actually think there are even more books than this. I mean, there obviously are, but I think this is one of the ones that I found that I really liked.
Oh, yeah, this is cute.
Right?
Actually, it's cool that there's like different ways, the tools and techniques section too. Is this like all the calligraphy stuff for it? Like different ways you can do it?
Yeah, so it shows a bunch of different like gold gilding techniques. I mean, they go like really hard on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, does that look nice?
So
yeah,
there it is.
highly recommend. And for these clouds, I don't need them to feel super realistic either. Like I kind of want to play with that overly fantastical sense that these clouds bring.
Are you trying to keep them consistent with the other ones, you think?
Yeah. I realize, though, you can see how I'm being, like, really tight. I really want this underdrawing to be way more loose, because then I usually get more fun curves and shapes when I'm being more loose, and then I can kind of build on top of. But usually starting out drawing, especially since I haven't drawn it all yet today, we've been doing other things, I usually start off a little tight with my drawings. Actually, this is another one of those benefits of working digital. I can just copy that ellipse, paste it.
I'm gonna get this little sage lit right now too.
Well, that's right. We're gonna burn some sage. Actually, do you want to show your little box?
Just my little box. I was nervous about it at first because it's so big, so I was like, I don't think these little, because it's just those little like cone ones. I was afraid it wouldn't really work well in here, but I think this actually works better than the little ones, honestly. I think so too. Just because there's more air getting through it, so maybe it just breathes better in there.
Something else I noticed about the original, and mind you, the original is on this card, it's this one. So I'm going to draw some arrows. There's a lot of negative space in the card. I'm going to move the pentacle up, actually. Maybe even center it just a bit more.
Oh, it's going right into my face. Is that back here?
I think it would be cooler too if it was behind us.
It should show up right there. Yeah, sometimes it does like a perfectly, if the room's perfectly still, no one's walking through it, it'll just go like perfectly straight up.
Yeah, I feel like that feels better to me. So I will change some of the composition. And for the garden, I might make it a little bigger.
Sergio says, I like the sketchy feel your art has. I have tried myself, but I cannot succeed. I will keep trying.
Yeah, keep trying. I mean, you gotta remember, like, I'm 31, so this has been like years upon years of drawing and then finding where my comfort is with sketching. And there's still days where, like, it's rough. I mean, Josh sees it sometimes where I'm just not having a good drawing day. And usually I can, like, shake it off by the next day, but man, when you're in the thick of it, yeah, it's not fun. It sucks.
Not that you say it, but I feel like you're essentially being like, I don't know if I can ever draw again. And then the next day you're like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah, it's definitely that imposter syndrome that, you know, is so popular among artists. But the problem is, like, I don't think I necessarily have it on most days. But there are times where I feel like my best skill level illustrations are behind me. And that scares me more than anything. Because you're always under this belief that you'll always continue improving. But I do think the more you rest on your laurels or rest on like your previous portfolio and work that you have done in the past, I do think it becomes very easy to slip and like get too comfortable and you're no longer like challenging yourself like you used to. And that's something that I've been very aware of the older I get. I'm trying not to let that happen. But yeah, it's, you feel those days. I think tarot is like a good challenge for me too, because one, it's a super long project. Like I wouldn't be able to finish this in a year if I tried. This is going to be like years upon years. And each one I really want to give my absolute best for, so that way when I finish, I will feel like from start to finish, I really put my quality in every card. And hopefully I'll look at each with that, that level of contentment that, sometimes over the years you look back at your old art and sometimes it's cringy, sometimes you're embarrassed. And I don't want to have that with the tarot deck. So anyways, long answer to a quick question.
Asa has, thank you so much. Also a fun gold leaf hack. Use a red where you will be gold leafing when you lay your adhesive. Mm-hmm. The red warm tones will show through the gold, making it a rich warm.
That's very true. And if you want to know more about gold leafing, I have a couple videos on the YouTube channel that you can watch.
Oh, actually. Thank you for the pronunciation. Nigza says, what was your favorite cartoon as a kid? Was there something that used to spark your creativity, like a movie, book, or a piece of music?
I was definitely, I watched a lot of television, like a lot of, kids my age. But I think a lot of the boys specifically were much more into like Power Rangers and Gundam and like a lot of fighting. I was really into Rugrats and like Doug and Digimon. And I think if I had to pick a favorite, I mean, I really loved Rugrats. But honestly, I think it has to be Digimon for me. I mean, I love Rugrats, and I think Tommy Pickle is one of my heroes of all time.
Oh, I was expecting it to be Rugrats.
But Digimon, I legit cried. Like, when that ended, I went through a life crisis. Well, I think it was kind of the start of a lot of things for me, and I think if I look back mentally, I find that I'm really attracted to like honesty. And usually honesty is in the form of sadness or like tragedy. So like with Digimon starting me off on this train, at the end of season 1, I mean, kind of spoiler for you guys if you don't want to hear it, but at the very end they like defeat the big bad guy and like they finally can relax and have, a laugh about their adventure. And then this one guy comes out and he's like, oh, now that you fixed the Digi world, you have 2 hours before all the humans are going to be transported back to their real world, and you'll never see your Digimon partners ever again. So make the most of the next 2 hours. And like that episode, holy, like you see each of them interact with their Digimon partners, and some of the conversations that they have are, they're like heartbreaking because they really are like, I don't know what to say. Like, you're my best friend. I don't want to leave you. It was like awful. I can if I talk about it too much, I'll get worked up because I just loved the connection. I mean, it was a little cringy watching as an adult because you're like, okay, clearly a lot of like kid humor, a lot of but the things that stuck with me, one, are design elements. I think Digimon has the best like designs for villains and just creatures. Also, sometimes the worst. It was definitely hit or miss. Where like Pokemon was definitely middle of the ground, where I felt like most of them were like good, and then a few of them were great. Like I think Ivysaur and War Turtle are great, but then you have other ones like basically every new Pokemon that I would put bad. But with Digimon,
there's some cute new ones. I'm trying to think of like.
There are some cute.
They're
ones.
Like safe though. They're not really like.
They're just weird. Like new, the ones that are like a key ring. There's a lot that I'm not a fan of. But with Digimon, when they were great, they were like excellent. To this day, I still think Piedmon and Myotismon and Devimon are like the best triple villains in a show. Possibly, the only one that could beat it would be Dragon Ball Z with Frieza, Cell, and Boo. Those are such iconic staple villains, and they're so different from one another, and their intentions and what they were trying to do were so different. I think the same thing for Devimon, Myotismon, and Piedmon.
I love Piedmon.
Piedmon's great. The whole Dark Master saga in Digimon, I was all about.
I don't think I watched past season 2 because they came out with a new series. Then there was like a whole new cast of people. Like I've never really
5
seen.
seasons.
Yeah,
I've seen the first 3, and then I had to stop because they really got off.
We tried watching the reboot that just came out like a few years ago, and that was not really that great either.
I mean, I think I'm too old for it. And I kind of want that nostalgia to be as pure as it is in my head. So I don't want to ruin it by re-engaging with something that feels more kiddish now that I'm older. Yeah,
I feel like the reboot was kind of just playing up to nostalgia, but it just doesn't do the same thing it did as when we were kids with it.
Doesn't do the trick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would have to say Digimon. And then I guess the last thing about that, like I said, it was starting off the train because then shortly after Digimon, oops. Oh, of course, my mom. Even though I tell her every Wednesday, I stream at this time. Please don't call.
Every time though.
I don't know if she does it on purpose. But starting that train off, it was like Digimon, and then it was like 2 years later, it was Kingdom Hearts. And Kingdom Hearts, a lot of you know, doesn't end well either. Sora and Kairi get separated. And it's like, I'll try to save you, and then the worlds all come back together, but they're separated. And then after that is when I really got gut punched with Final Fantasy X.
Oh god.
And I won't spoil that one, but oh my god, the emotional roller coaster in that last 15 minutes. I think it broke me. Oh, and then also, actually, speaking of, after I played Final Fantasy X, the next thing I got really into was Moulin Rouge. And for those of you who know, I mean, it's not a spoiler because they say it in the beginning, Satine, the main love interest, dies at the end. But when I first saw Moulin Rouge, it was on TV. And I started watching halfway through. So I didn't know Satine was going to die. And, like, watching that ending was, like, tragic. So I think it might be a lot of just what influenced me as a kid / young adult. But I think even going into my later years, I found like this comfort in melancholy. And even though I'm in like the best place I've ever been in my life, I still like sadder sounding music. And sometimes Josh, I don't think understands. He's like, well, why would you listen? It's like, I think because it pulls me back to like my childhood. And there's such like a calmness with sadness, even though I'm not sad as a person.
No, I understand.
You know, it's hard to explain a little bit, but anyways, that was a super long rant.
I think I liked Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Oh, such a good show.
That was probably my favorite. That or, oh my gosh, what was the other show?
Well, there's so
For a
many.
cartoon, yeah, actually probably Courage was my favorite, honestly.
I mean, you could go down the list of like...
That's probably why I like horror so much too, because like I just would watch Courage all the time.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was borderline obsessed with Goosebumps and like...
Oh my god. Scary Stories.
Tell in the Dark.
Actually, Scary Stories were actually kind of scary when you
Those
think about
legit
it.
were
Yeah.
scary. Which I guess is the show title.
Sergio says, let's go on the field train. Tai Chi. Oh. Actually, what character from Digimon did you relate to then as a kid?
Tai.
Was it Tai? That's what, okay.
Well, it's like, I always liked... I think everyone likes TK of being like the younger brother that you feel you need to protect. But I was definitely in between Tai and Matt. I didn't think I was cool enough as a kid to be Matt. So I always related more to Tai being like kind of the obnoxious happy one. So to me, it was definitely Tai.
I think I was TK probably.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Sergio says I have to go. I will check your videos. They may help me in my sketch journey. Well, thanks for stopping, Sergio.
Thanks for stopping. I know this was kind of a last minute marketing, but we almost always do these now every Wednesday, and it'll almost always be a tarot card, just because I thought I would share this journey with you, and then me and Josh don't have to like super pre-plan for the week because we have so much going on because conventions are coming back in possibly next weekend. We might be in Indiana.
Oh my, is that next weekend?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Wait, we don't know yet, do we?
We don't even know.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Fidgety Fox, hello. My auntie introduced me to Final Fantasy, will burst into tears at the soundtrack for Final Fantasy X to this day. The music is gorgeous. I mean, Tim's been replaying it too, and I've never actually watched it played, so it's been really cool to see it, because I don't know, it's the music, the environments. Oh. You have to put Do Not Disturb on here. Click right there.
Oh my gosh. Oh, is this what this is?
Yep. There you go.
You taught me something new today.
That's why I'm here.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, the music's gorgeous. I don't know. I feel like for a game to be great too, there has to be like all the elements of the music, the environments, everything has to match up really well too.
I feel like this is definitely a common rant that I go on a lot of these streams of why I think Final Fantasy has kind of fallen the past 10 years. But just kind of fantasy games in general, or just a lot of video games in general, you need a story that clearly has passion behind it, and you can tell the people making it like cared so deeply about the characters and the arcs that they're going through, and you know, just the overarching story that they're telling. I've played so many games where there's like this political quandary or just things that I wish I could just tell game developers, no one cares. No one cares. I very rarely talk to people that when they talk about Star Wars, if they like it, that they love the political scenes. If anything, that's always like the weakest part. You know, people love the character arcs of the characters. They don't want to be sitting there and like, oh, this country or this planet has problems with this planet, like what are we gonna do? Oh, but like no one cares.
I mean, sometimes those are used to like push the character arcs, so in a way it's like,
nope.
I know, but people don't care about that
no
necessarily, but it's part of the story, which is like,
yeah, but think about it, the best stories you can think of never have that. You know,
Final Fantasy X did though.
Yeah, but it was never the focus ever.
I
Like
know,
you could
but
tell
it was
that
like
there was something going on.
necessary to push the story arc though. Like because of that though, you got the ending and you get the story along the way. Like you get character development because of those. Like
no, I'm gonna argue this because it wasn't political. It was like religious mostly.
I mean, they kind of go two into together sometimes. Like in that case, they do too because
No, they don't.
I mean,
No, because I mean, we're gonna have a legit Final Fantasy X debate right now. Because Seymour Guado's like the antagonist, but the real villain is Sin. Sin has no connections to like political or even religious realms.
this isn't fair because I've not even seen the ending yet. So like,
True.
yeah, we'll discuss this later because
I guess a good better example.
When we finish the game, then we'll discuss it. Because I don't know. Because I personally, so far, I feel like the story is being like pushed forward because of the religious / political.
No, we're not even having this until you watch the whole thing because that's definitely not it.
Yeah.
Because then you look at a better example like Final Fantasy XII that really struggles because they had so much of the focus on the political stuff where like no one cared. Everyone's favorite part about 12 was the world and the architecture and how it looked.
Yeah, the art style is pretty. I mean, but there's good character development in that one though, right? Or is it not as much as
really.
10? Okay.
Like almost none. Like the character arcs are like Balthier being funny and witty, or I guess Bosch having his redemption, but then you find out later he didn't even need a redemption because it was like his evil twin brother. And you're like,
I mean, that's probably why you wouldn't like 14 also, because 14's just a lot of like
oh, I'd hate it.
That political issues between two of the like countries and stuff like that. So
I guess because I'm older now, it's so boring to me. I just don't care.
Well, that's why you'll probably like Edith Finch then even too, because like that game's just pure.
Yes.
Yeah, like a story outside of the world, I guess.
Because I guess with like political games that are like my side's right, your side's wrong, you know that there's always one that leans evil, and like that's who you're gonna take down. That's exactly where the plot's gonna go, and then you're gonna take them down, and then you're gonna reclaim peace and harmony for the world. I find that so boring. You know, like that story's been told so many times. Like, why do I want to invest in that again?
Yeah.
Also, I'm a little fired up because of it. I think because you even see it with movies and even like fantasy movies. Like, look at how beautiful the first Lord of the Rings was. And then let me think of another fantasy movie that's come out recently that I was just like.
I mean, most of them, I guess even like Neverending Story was cute. Because it's not like it's got.
Actually, you know what? This could be an unpopular opinion. I think why I like the earlier Harry Potter films is because they don't focus on the characters being like the main, like centered on the plot, and it kind of like it's like this introduction to this magical world that is like greater than everything. But then by the later films, it becomes so much everything surrounds Harry, and like the whole wizarding world could collapse based on him. Where like in the first movie, he was just there. He just happened to go to Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Which I loved.
I mean, that's why those ones have like a certain charm to them compared to the later ones. But I mean, people like when things get darker and like more serious. So, but that's why I'm excited for that one game to come out, because I think it's going to be based in the universe. What is that? The Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely playing.
From what I can tell so far, it's like based in the universe, but it's not got some like crazy. I think you're just living in the universe, but it's not like you have some crazy arc that happens. That's what I hope too. I hope it's more just like almost MMO style, but like maybe with the story still. But it has like a focus on just like living in the universe, which I think would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Dria's here. Hello,
hey,
Dria. Janisha Colors, hello, welcome. Cheyenne, thank you for coming and stopping by. Samira, what's he working on? Yeah, Tim's working on the Ace of Pentacles. So yes, more tarot today. Fidgety. Oh, hey, Fidgety Fox. Actually, I think I said hello to you earlier, but hello again. I think early Resident Evil's push of government capitalist corruption in the way of political storylines is the only thing I could think of for effective politics in games. Otherwise, nah. Yeah, because
I didn't
like
play the early ones. Do they do a good job at that?
Well, yeah, because like Umbrella, they're putting research and like these new genes they found over the like greater good of the whole, which is how like the T virus, all that got out was because of
gotcha.
like the corruption and them putting that experimentation over human life, basically. See, yeah, actually that's a good example because that game, it works in that world. But I mean, Resident Evil, as much as has character development, it's not as much as probably like Final Fantasy X. I will give it that.
Oh, you know what? I did think of one other example where I think it works. Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
But I think I like it because it's not two political parties. It's like political party in nature.
Well, Mononoke also shows you can, in a way, find a way to relate to both sides. Though.
Oh, yeah. I think
it's
that's
not like just
Miyazaki
a pure evil, like... Because what's her name? The one lady?
Lady Eboshi.
Yeah, Lady Eboshi.
One of my favorite characters.
You actually can understand why she is doing what she's doing, though, too. Which I like. I don't like when they completely make it just a pure evil, like...
Well, like, we talked about that, too, like, why Spirited Away was so successful. Because every time they introduced what you would assume would be the villain, whether it be Yubaba, the stink spirit, No Face, they all kind of turned around. And it shows that like it messes with your perception of we are perceiving them to be bad, but once you kind of uncover the truth behind it, like Yubaba is just a overstressed bathhouse manager and kind of a slave to capitalism in some ways, if you want to call it that. But she's not evil.
No.
And then same with like No Face. I think he to me represents like gluttony and greed. And if you give it too much, it turns you into a monster. Where if you like let go of a lot of those, things, you become yourself again. So, like, even as a kid watching it, I was, like, literally blown away.
Well, especially because you're so used to, like, Disney movies as a kid, too, where there is definitely, like, it's easy to tell who's good and who's bad. So for a kid trying to judge that then, because I think even as a kid, we get conditioned to believe there's always been a good versus bad when it comes to, like, even movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure.
It definitely probably threw you off a little bit when you're like, oh, wait. Masky says Resident Evil in an art stream about cards.
Yeah.
I love Resident
I'm telling
Evil.
you, we talk everything here.
I mean, actually, Tim watched me play the newest one. And then I was gonna play 7 for Tim too. Because I actually really like the last two. I know a lot of people have like issues with them because they kind of like they went off the path of what Resident Evil games were, but I kind of like the first person horror style they're doing now.
I mean, I think the one thing we could agree on is they are a little silly.
They are definitely silly. Then the latest one, there's times where it's like they're playing it up to like an action movie where it's almost like too good to be true.
Right.
Like it's those like I'll let them get away with one situation where it's like a close call and something happens and they get saved. But when it happens by the 5th or 6th time, you're kind of getting over it. At that point, it starts feeling a little
convenient
forced.
Coincidences, which are like my least favorite thing ever.
I'll give them one because I mean we all experience those throughout our life, so it's like there's situations where we probably had close calls we don't even realize. But yeah, in a game though, you have to be.
I'm gonna have to start figuring out. Do I want a smaller start? Because like I always thought it would be a really big one in my mind. But I almost wonder if it. Oh.
You want the edges showing though, right? The corners.
Yeah, but like I like how this bottom gold one. I know it's probably hard for you guys to see on the stream. I kind of like how it like melts into the side.
That's what I was gonna say. I kind of like that.
But I also like the one next to it, which is probably even more hard to see. But there's like a double ring. But that will be really difficult when I have like 8 of Pentacles and I have to draw 8 of them. It might be really hard to see. I still want it to read. You know what? We'll do a couple. We'll see how it goes. Because I think what's our time at? I think I'm going to do purely digital today to kind of give you guys an idea of what the underlying sketch will look like. And then next week, we'll probably start the penciling. So if you want to see the Ace of Pentacles from start to finish, it'll probably be our July card. And I'll most likely have Josh here for most of them if work doesn't become too crazy.
Yeah. I do love that you kept the archway not centered. Because I know some of them switched it to centered, but I kind of like that it's a little off-center. I don't know what the meaning. I'm sure like someone could find meaning out of that it's like off center. Maybe that you don't have to follow.
Actually, that is a good question.
Because even the pathway, I think it's cool if there's overgrowth on the pathway, Maybe just to symbolize that maybe you don't have to follow
maybe.
like an exact set path, that you're kind of finding success.
Yeah.
Not on like a traditional path, I guess.
It would be interesting because I think after the stream's over and before I like actually print this out to start working, like really deep diving on to what each of the elements mean. Because even the mountains in the background, I found really quickly they're supposed to represent, it's like 2 Hebrew pillars, but both basically meaning success. And it's showing that, yeah, even though you're on the right path and you will be lush, it will still be difficult and there will still be like a journey that you'll have to surmount to. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
The journey never ends. Oh, Lane's here. Hey, Lane.
Hey, Ghislaine, how you doing?
Good to see ya.
We definitely might need your help sometime in July golding.
Oh my god, yeah. With these cons coming up right now, I think we're just not... It's been, what, almost 2 years now, so I just feel like we're just not prepared yet. I mean, we do have a lot put together for them, but our like minds have been so focused on the Etsy and all that stuff that I feel like cons have been kind of thrown on the back burner for a while.
I think a lot of people that have followed me for a while knew that we used to do cons like all the time. It would be at least one a month, usually 2. And then when COVID hit, it was like this strange transition into figuring out how do we make this work.
What do we do?
So then this year, because of what's happening with the vaccines and everything, we thought we would have like 1 or up to 3 cons later this year. And then as of right now, we have 8, potentially 9. So let's just say we're not print ready and we're like kind of diving in. July is going to be our like head down and work and print and pack, because the worst thing for me at a con is to feel unprepared. Like the worst feeling in the world, honestly.
I'm pretty excited though. So after Dragon Con, I'm treating Tim to a trip to Tennessee. Most of my family's from down south, so my grandparents love Dolly a lot. My grandma did. So I went to Dollywood a long time ago, but I want to take Tim there now too. So it's just like a big theme park that's centered around Dolly Parton. But I got us a cute little place to stay there. I won't give it away yet. So I'm excited for that. So we have like stuff in between cons too we're doing, because we're driving to pretty much all of them this year, except for Emerald City. So yeah, all basically 7 conventions we'll be driving to this year, which will be fun.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier too than flying, because that's the one thing with now that we have all these books. Because I mean, Tim, you have 4 books now. There's card decks. There's like things that we never brought to cons before now. So flying with that's going to definitely be a new thing for us too. Beb says Spirited Away was absolutely amazing. And then also, oh my god, when Ethan Winters glued his hand together.
Oh yeah, I know that was Catsley's favorite part too.
Ooh. Lane says, I'm so up for helping. I'll be moving back to Waukesha soon. Oh, so you'll be very close then again.
Yeah, no, Lane, I think we're excited because I think we'll need some help golden. If you're okay with that.
You can see the kitties. Gosh, we've not seen your baby in like since probably the last Halloween party would have been. Do we see? I can't remember now. No, it probably was the Halloween party, so it's been a bit too.
So really quick, I'm thinking with the star, I do want to do, like I was mentioning earlier, this kind of overlapping. And I'll do it way more clean with the pencil, but to just show that like it's over and then under. And I'm going to keep doing that for every star piece.
Tria says, question, how do you get motivated to put your works on paper every day? I wouldn't say I have artist block. I have many ideas. I'm finding it, I'm thinking you're saying hard to apply myself. That's cute though. It says I'm finding it art to apply myself. Finding it hard to apply myself productively. There's the correct.
It's very difficult. And I think a lot of what's to blame, at least in my mind, I think social media kind of has trained us for like really quick gratification moments. And I think with art, especially if you're doing things that take time, it can be very difficult to want to sit down and just draw or just paint for hours at a time when you feel like you're not getting the satisfaction of like a job well done or a good job, because you see other artists that can spit paint really quickly. They post something and it's almost on the daily. So yeah, it can get really disheartening. I think what might help you is I literally got this timer, and I used to do it on just like my phone or on Google, but like set the timer for an hour, and then you can basically do anything for an hour, and whatever big project you have in your mind, at least you know you're giving an hour a day to that. And I think there's more satisfaction personally in knowing that you are adding hours to a project that you love, even if you might not see like a very physical, tangible result. I think sometimes it's good to know that time is being added to the project. So hopefully that may help you. And I think it helps because once you set that timer, you're not thinking so much about like, okay, I need to set my placemat. Do I have to go to the bathroom? Do I need to eat? Should I look at my emails first? Should I check Instagram? Should I look at Pinterest for ideas? It's literally like, nope, this is your time to draw. Just go. You can think later. Draw now. And I think sometimes being self-disciplinary like that, that's not a word. Being a self-disciplinarian, is that a word?
It works.
It works. I think that has helped me a lot in the past, and it just, it's definitely one of those hard things to overcome as an artist, especially with everything telling you the opposite of like be quick, be as efficient and effective as you possibly can. But I think sometimes that means skimping on quality, and I wish we wouldn't encourage that as much as understanding that usually quality will produce quantity in the long run. So I'm one of those people where I promote quality because of the times we live in right now, where I think back in the day I would have promoted more on quantity, because I do think you have to do that whole idea of doing 1,000 crappy drawings into good ones. I do think there is a lot of truth to that. I know some artists want to like say that that's not true, but you kind of can see it, especially if you look at like the top artists, even like the popular ones like Loesch or Ross. But I'm talking more like the Justin Gerards and Brahms, like, yeah, or even Alan Williams. Their early art, yeah, doesn't look nearly as good as their current art because they had to like go through that journey to get to creating their good work.
Better climb them mountains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Vivian says, I'm sorry if this is a common question, but did you attend art school?
No, it's okay. No question is off the table. I did, but I actually went to school for game art and design, so my background isn't really in illustration. I thought I was going to be working at Square Enix. I really fell in love with the company, especially because they were the ones that made Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy X, which are like my two favorite games ever. And then it was shortly after college that I got a job teaching, so it kind of went a totally different path of not really doing like game art like I thought I was. But yeah, I do know how to animate in Flash. I can do 3D modeling and like a little bit of rigging and animation, but that was also 10 years ago, and the industry has changed so much.
Probably changed tremendously.
I don't want to like downplay things, but it's so much easier to rig and animate than it was back when I was learning how to rig. And you have to be very aware of poly count, which are polygons, and in the game world, when I went to school, it was like 2008 through 2011. So this is like just the era of 2000 or PS3. So like we were learning how to still be conscious of how many polygons were on a character model or on a weapon or in an environment, because the processor could only handle so much wherever the frame was looking from the viewer's perspective. So it sucked because we had to do what was called baking on, where basically you do like a really high sculpt, high detailed model, and then you would save out, like, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. Okay, we'll do it really simple terms. Imagine a potato, but imagine the skin of the potato being super detailed.
Of course,
and,
you go to potatoes.
It's like the easiest thing I can think of off the top of my head. But imagine the skin of the potato being like super detailed, high render, like every fiber you can see, and it's like painted on really well. Essentially, imagine taking the skin off of the potato, And then you have this like really low poly model of a potato. So like instead of it being 1,000,000 polygons to get every curve of the potato, imagine if it's like 5,000 polygons. So it's still round-ish, but then that skin that you baked with all the detail, you can essentially wrap onto that low poly model. So it'll still look high poly, but it's actually baked onto the polygons.
Interesting.
Oh, it was. But what's funny is they don't really do that anymore. So what I learned would have kind of been dropped out the window now. Like they probably don't teach this. So like I was in a really weird time, or I was in a weird time to be going to school for video game art and design because things were ramping up so quickly and processing speeds and just everything was ramping up so quickly that we would have been, what we were learning was getting lost like the next year. So yeah, anyways, yes, I did go to art school.
Polygons, potatoes.
Polygons and potatoes.
Ella's here. Hello, Ella. Sorry,
Hi,
I'm
Ella.
late.
Oh, don't apologize.
Yeah, please never apologize.
I always
for that.
understand, like, people have lives.
Papa Padlock says, "Hi, just wanted to hop in and say that your art is a huge inspiration for me, and I hope you keep creating beautiful drawings."
Well, thank you, thank you.
Oh,
I will do my best.
Demon Keeper says, "I live in East Tennessee, and living near the tourist trap areas hold zero appeal. I'm far too much of an introvert for crowds." Yeah, definitely. I was telling Tim, so we have a place in Wisconsin called the Wisconsin Dells, and that whole like Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area is basically like the Dells of Tennessee. It's like the Dells times 2 though. It's huge.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's nice to visit, but yeah, I wouldn't like to, because even the Dells, like I wouldn't want to live like in the Dells area. I think it'd be nice to be away from,
Tourists.
Yeah. Where we live is busy, but we can kind of like, we're kind of away from the busyness of the area, which is nice.
I would say we're definitely like in the thick of the burbs.
Oh yeah.
In like old people burbs.
Oh yeah,
which are the best burbs because there's never noise, there's rarely like disturbances.
I mean, our neighbor does cut the grass like every other day, but otherwise
they are a little more particular about yards.
Yes.
I think that's why me and Josh are, trying to make our yard look nice.
We're definitely like the millennial couple on the street because like if the grass sits there for a week, who's that gonna hurt?
I don't want to be that. It's just we can't compete with people that are cutting their grass every 3-4 days.
Yeah, and they like water their grass every day. Like they take care of their yard.
One of our neighbors, when it was really hot, watered the driveway.
Oh my god, yeah, they were.
This is the who we're living near. So like I'm not gonna be watering the driveway.
I still don't know why they watered their driveway.
I think it's so it doesn't crack. I'm like convinced that there's something that we don't know.
To like cool the cement down or something?
Yes.
I don't know.
I'm 100% in that belief.
That was just really weird.
It was very weird.
There was like literally a sprinkler going on the driveway. Very curious. Issa says, "I actually have a question about pricing prints versus originals versus embellishments. Are there places other than Kinko's you would recommend for prints?" I guess first question, I have a question about pricing prints versus originals versus embellishments.
Okay, so I think for this question, there's a lot to take into account for. So look at your stuff objectively. And you need to be like, I know people say don't compare yourself to other people, but I'm telling you, compare yourself to other people. Because when I was learning how to price my work out, I was definitely looking at what the competition was doing at a convention marketplace. And I didn't want to be underselling myself, but also if you're overselling your stuff, you might be seen as too pricey. But my view on that has changed over the years. But I would say if you're a younger artist, I would say for a print, definitely no less than $20. But sizing plays a count too. So I guess if you could be a little more specific on like what are your print sizes, and I could probably give you better feedback on that. But I will say if you're doing embellishment, you can definitely jack the price up. What was the other originals? Your originals should definitely be way up there. If you're doing traditional stuff, that has become more of a commodity in the modern age of art than it used to be. Where I think people are so used to seeing digital art now kind of running the game that when you see a traditional artist at a con or wherever, you're more likely to have that like wow factor, even though it really, sometimes I'm like, it's not that hard. Like we've all held a pencil. But I think because the industry has moved so much towards digital, traditional, the value of it has just gone up. So I would definitely not undersell yourself there.
Benari, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Benari, for subscribing. And what was question 2?
Question 2 is... Sorry, I always scroll. Are there places other than Kinko's you would recommend for prints?
Okay, so back in my early convention days, I was actually one of those people that would go to Office Depot. Not proud. And I would print out sheets for my buttons that I would then sit and cut out each individually and then pop every button. But the quality was not great. So then my friend Pui found a print house that was like an hour and a half away from my house, unfortunately. But they did pretty good prints and they would cut it for you. So sometimes looking at like local printers in the area can help. I would definitely not recommend laser. You definitely want to do ink. Laser, you can like, if you like hold a magnifying glass to it, you can just see the little dots. Where ink has more of like a flush look to it, and it's harder to see how it was created, which adds like a quality value to it. I know that we now do self-printing. We do Canon printers. I think it's a Canon Pixma Pro 100, but we possibly might be looking at newer printers now, like bigger ones. And that's kind of its own field when you're doing self-printing. There's a lot of pros, I would say, but there's also a lot of cons because, you know, it's slower. The ink price is pretty high unless if you're doing like third-party ink and you're like supplementing it from like the third-party ink, which you're like syringing into ink cartridges.
Yeah, you did that for a while.
Lived that life.
Yeah.
In my past, never going there again. Because with black and white prints, even like a slight variant of color, you like one will look more auburn, one will look more cyan, and you're like, I can't show these at a convention next to each other because they don't look black and white.
I'm sure because right now we just buy the ink. So there's a website called Quill, and you can buy ink from them, and then you can return the ink to them, and they'll give you credits for future ink orders, which is nice. I don't know if Quill where they ship. I don't know if it's just the States. I would think they ship internationally. I'm not sure actually, but that's really nice. But I'm sure the price to print ourselves probably comes about the same to what it would be if we printed with a printer.
Yeah,
I would think so. Like with all the costs, with the paper, ink, and buying all that stuff. Probably local printers, though, would be cool to find if you could find one, just because they're going to be more personal. You can tell them exactly what you want more.
Yeah, because I know not everyone's going to want to shell out money for a printer, and then sometimes it's space can be an issue because you need space for the paper, space to put the print, space for the printer itself, maintenance, ink.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of good luck with it, so like I would still recommend it if you're willing to take the time to do it yourself. Otherwise, yeah, I would look for local printers. Yeah.
Ella says waste of precious water. Janisha, in Florida, when it rains, the sprinklers are also on.
I'm telling you, it is mind-blowing.
But you're saying when it's raining, people even have sprinklers on. I guess in Florida that would maybe make sense because I'm sure it maybe is drier there. I don't know. We had like 2 weeks in a row that was no rain. So for Wisconsin, that is kind of a big deal because we usually get like at least 1 or 2 rainy days a week. So for it not to rain at all for like 2 to 3 weeks, it was really getting dry here.
It was definitely like, close to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I think the thing, doing your driveway seems excessive. I can understand if you want to do your grass so it doesn't kill all the seed if you like laid new grass that year. But to water your driveway, I don't know.
That was a little excessive.
That's excessive.
Yeah. Let's see. Ella, Tim, is that a word? Josh, it works. I missed you too. That's about an average day for us too.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Claudia says, how do you keep a positive mindset if your drawings don't turn out the way you had it in your head?
Woo! Okay, good example. I did the High Priestess 3 months ago, and it was a journey, and not in like the best way. Imagine like a journey where you're climbing a mountain, but your shoes are soggy. You're really hot, but you don't have any water left. Like, yeah, sometimes the journey to get to the destination is not fun. I think I have to remind myself, though, is that as long as you're taking a step forward on that journey, no matter how difficult it is and how much you feel like it's not going your way, at least you're still making that journey. So if you're not feeling like the quality turned out to the way that you wanted it to, you can still be proud that you're putting in the effort and the time to go on that journey. Because trust me, the High Priestess was possibly like a 60-hour drawing, and it should have been like a 40, 45. So those 15 hours where I was erasing and restarting and redoing things, to me it feels like, yeah, those 15 hours were just wasted. It can feel like that, but I have to then remind myself, like, no, like those hours were still impotent. Is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward and to completing this drawing. And like, this is the completed one. And like, I'm proud of it now. It's kind of hard to see on the this little screen, but yeah, it was definitely rough. Where like the Queen of Wands, the one I just did, it felt good almost from start to finish. It like I did have to restart because the flower was too close to the throne. But once I restarted and pushed the flower out, literally, it was just a matter of time. But it felt good working on it.
Well, it's like you were saying earlier, you want to come back to these card decks and feel good about them. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes if you know it's just not going the right way for you, then you know you just need to stop and fix it to where you can feel like you're going to be proud of it then again.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you finished High Priestess originally, not feeling good with it, that would have not been fun to have to look back on.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely one of those artists that I believe that if you are working on something, you can see that there's a mistake. I promise, fix it now and like right away, or else you'll be polishing what my teachers used to call polishing a turd. Where, yeah, you can throw as much lighting and value and rendering as you can on top of it, but if it's just wrong, you can tell that there's something wrong, you can't cover it up. Like, you'll still be able to see it. And even if you can trick the mass majority of the public that look at your art that everything looks good, it'll sit with you, which is the worst. So don't do that to yourself. And if you're having an off day with art, it happens to me all the time too. And I sometimes will just work on something else because it'll get my mind off of the frustration I have with the current piece. And you might have more fun with that, the new drawing, or just don't draw at all that day. Like, go for a walk, go do, I know that's like the most general answer ever, but like do what makes you genuinely happy. Maybe that is like playing a game for a little bit, or maybe that is going on a bike ride. I definitely suggest more like outdoor activity to like kind of stimulate the brain, but that's on you then.
Oh, Felix is here too.
Hi, Felix.
Hey everyone, feels weird to even be here. I haven't finished any art in literal months. I just need my degree to be done.
Oh, that's right. You're working hard to get that done though. So I mean, that's fair.
When is that? When are you planning on having that finished then, Felix? It's gotta be soon, right? Demon says my small town's being overrun with people moving here from out west, mostly, which just means it's getting a bit too crowded. Yeah, I'm sure that's like, it's changing the way of life too in like small towns too. There's like a charm to them, and when you have all these people coming in, it can change the feel of it all.
Okay, I might do a quick change on the card. I think rather than having the lilies be like they are in the original, where they're like little like this, because I kind of did the same thing with my Ace of Cups, where the lily pads actually get like closer to the viewer in the screen. I think I'm going to do that with these lilies too. So I might have a couple that are kind of close up. Just kind of letting you guys know what the heck's happening right now.
Asa says, I've never done prints, though my usual paper size is 11 by 17. This was earlier too with the pricing.
Okay, if you're looking at 11 by 17 prints, I would say between the 30 and 40 range is usually typical. I know when we did our 13 by 17, we did it for $40, 2 for $70. But now that we're, you know, going to so many cons and they're all hand golded, so we're like putting extra touch, we're actually going to be raising the prices. and we're doing 50 for a 13 by 17, and that's definitely on the higher end. And I think we can kind of justify it because we sell enough quantity where we almost need to slow how much we're selling, and then we can raise the prices up. And you'll kind of gauge that as you do more of like the selling of your work, because at first you might be like, okay, I just want it to be accessible to everyone, so I'll make my prints $10 or like $15, like super cheap. And then after you do it for a little bit and maybe your quality keeps increasing, you might be realizing like you're running out of things so quickly that the print and demand, or not print and demand, what's that called?
Demand.
No, supply and demand.
Flux and flow.
No,
okay.
Get out of here.
I don't know.
Where you might be realizing like people like your work and they're willing to pay for it. So it's now up to you to raise the prices so that you're not undervaluing your work. And honestly, sometimes that bleeds into undervaluing yourself. And I think that will help you then kind of figure out the path of how much to price things for. But if I were you, I would start between 25 and 30 for a 13 by 17 or 11 by 17. And if it's going really well where you're selling a lot of them, raise the prices. If you find that almost no one's buying them, yeah, maybe either keep them where they are or maybe go $5 cheaper. But then maybe that's also a sign, and this might be some tough love, that you need to like go back to the drawing board, and maybe your stuff just isn't quite there to make it as like a print artist. And I know that was kind of a tough thing for me to learn 8 years ago when I started doing conventions. But yeah, there are just some prints that no one wants. And it's not that you're a bad artist. It's just that it might not be the right fit for a print, or it could just be the quality is not up to snuff compared to the other artist at a convention hall. Now, if you're doing it mostly online, I mean, your competition is like infinite. You have so many artists that you're competing against. So you really need to make sure that you stand out, and it will be a journey for you.
I mean, even now for Tim, there's stuff like after cons we keep account of what's sold, and we're finding there's certain prints that like we never sell them now. Mm-hmm. So like we're learning even for Tim's stuff that there's ones that just we have to get rid of. Like we can't bring to cons just because it's extra weight.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, so it's like learning what people are wanting to buy, I guess, which is weird though. Is that probably where you get some imposter syndrome from sometimes too then? Is like...
No, imposter syndrome usually means like if you're doing really well, but you don't believe you should deserve to be doing well.
Oh, okay.
So it's almost like, imagine like a famous person, like Rebecca Black is a good example, who like gained a lot of fame and celebrity like really quickly, and then might feel like I don't deserve this. That's usually imposter syndrome. But I do feel it like when we do really well at a show, but if I didn't feel like I did that well that weekend, like if I didn't feel like I was on my game, that's where it might feel like imposter syndrome, like I didn't deserve to do well. Yeah. Prints are such a weird game. Yeah. And try not to create things just for the sake of creating prints off of them. I know I've definitely played what we call the game with my con art friends before. I did this fox piece because, well, one, I actually do like drawing fur, but I did a fox piece specifically for making a print out of it, and it did really well. But yeah, the feeling of it was kind of gross, of like, was my focus here to just make money? And after that print, I've never done it since, and this was like 5 years ago. And I think you'll realize slowly but surely, the more that you invest in your pieces and it has more of like an emotional tug and it's more unique to who you are as an artist, the more it'll resonate to people, more so than just like a pretty face with a crown or a halo or flowers. Usually the art that has stories behind it that are interwoven with the actual person who created it, those usually will do the best at shows.
Ella says it's when we struggle the most that we also learn the most. Beautiful wisdom from Ella.
Thank you, Ella. That is very true.
Demon Keeper says switching gears and drawing something simpler or fun for yourself or just stepping away can work wonders to help reset and give you a fresh outlook. Mm-hmm. All this wisdom today. Asa says it's hard to compare myself to other artists. I'm not going to lean on the crutch of calling my flaws my style, but I do have more of an abbreviated realism style.
Yeah, and I guess there is some realization of maybe your stuff isn't great marketed as prints. Like I know a lot of why I think my prints worked in unintentionally why they worked is because it's a lot of like floating subject matter on blank backgrounds. But because this it has a simplicity to it, the message and meaning behind the work kind of stands stronger. Where a lot of edge to edge drawings and paintings, there's a lot going on there. So it's more for the viewer to be critical of, or if they don't relate to it, then they won't want it. But when I had like a simple fox floating in nothing and like a very simple message behind it, it reads well. So sometimes art doesn't translate and register super well as prints, and sometimes you just gotta get over that hump. Because I've seen edge to edge paintings that like when they first started doing cons, yeah, they were kind of rough, and like I could see why no one was buying them. But as they kind of worked themselves up and their skill level improved, now when they do edge to edge stuff, like it sells almost right away. Actually, a good example is my friend Pui. He's very much like a floaty, borderline abstract artist. But then when he kind of pulled it together and threw subject matters in it, I mean, he makes so much money because it's so gorgeous and it's like unequivocally, is that, yeah, unequivocally.
Oh my god, stop asking me if these words are real. I don't know. Yes.
It's an obvious take on like fantastical overload.
He has like a Monet almost style, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like that, just, it's hard to necessarily tell what it is, but then you can start looking at it. The longer you look at it, the more you start seeing more in it.
And it works.
Yeah. But Pui also, he makes a lot too from doing like not just prints, but he actually sells like big framed canvases and stuff like that too. And I think that's a big part of his too, is like the appeal of it's very grand and like.
Actually, yeah, some tip that we can give you is diversify your products for sure, but then have a high point item at your booth. And this is a trick in perception, because what we've learned is a lot of what cons are is just all perception. If you can make it perceive that your art has value and is worth something, other people will too. But you kind of need the social confirmation of that. So you need to have like people walking around with your prints, and then someone seeing it being like, oh, who's that artist? Like, oh, if they bought from it, they must be good.
Well, I think it shows more confidence. If you can be confident in your own work, people are going to gravitate towards it then too.
Yeah.
And I think that helps a lot, because then if you're not necessarily proud or like feel good about it, people are going to feel that, I don't know, there is like a thing to, I hate using energy for everything, but there's like an energy that's emitted when you're like not proud of something that you're trying to give to other people, because you're not going to be as hyped about it. Where I think if you're excited about your own work and feel connected to it yourself, then you're going to obviously connect with other people. Because I mean, I've seen that with your being at booths too, is you can get excited with other people. Like if someone comes up, you get excited about your work and they're getting excited about it too. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, I think it's easier when they like ask you is like a story behind it, and if you tell them like the like honest truth about like what it means and why you created it, yeah, that might like generate some excitement for it, and they might be more prone to buy it because they now attach themselves to the story of the work rather than just the work and the quality of the work itself.
Probably too, in a way, it's learning how to tell a story.
Yeah.
Like, because even physically or vocally telling a story, there's just some people that are really good storytellers and some people that aren't. And I think it's the same way with art too. Sometimes you can try to be putting 100 stories into one illustration, then maybe it is just learning to narrow it to like one story or like one topic.
Yeah, and a lot of times it might be like if you do a piece that represents imposter syndrome, for example, like what does that look like visually? And then when you tell people like this is what it means, and then once the viewer makes a connection to, oh, that's what, oh, I see it now, there's like that oh moment, I think that's where people really connect with it. And it could be something as simple as like, oh, this might represent my sister, we're really close and I want to show the bond of friendship that we have visually. Like all of a sudden now there's a deeper meaning to that illustration, that if the viewer connects with that, like if they have a close relationship to their sister, you might have just got a buyer unintentionally, and you're not being sleazy because that's truly what the art means, and you might have someone that will buy it because of that. Yeah, never be sleazy with the work either, though. I think it comes off very easily when you can tell someone's just trying to like pitch you versus when someone's like telling you the meaning behind something.
Oh yeah, there have definitely been those cons where I go up and it does have more of the sleazy feel. But I get both sides, because sometimes at cons too, you can go up to someone that you just know they're not confident with their work either. So there is like, there has to be a balance, as with everything in life. Claudia says, yeah, I think stepping away helps me the most, because the longer I force it, the worse it feels.
Yep.
That's usually where you're like, let's go take a bike ride.
Yeah.
And I'm always down for bike rides, so that works out.
Well, I think Josh has been a good reminder for me, because Josh doesn't like need any type of social fame or like recognition in that way. And my whole life has been borderline obsessed, or not my whole life, I shouldn't say that. My early 20s on has been so obsessed with like numbers. And I think social media kind of plays with that insecurity of, if you don't have the numbers, then your art doesn't have worth. And then for a lot of artists, if your art doesn't have worth, then you yourself don't have worth either. That is a really hard thing to break. So I thank Josh a lot for kind of reminding me of like being a good person outside of doing art, because I always felt like I was a good person, but I always felt like I needed to do good work to kind of prove myself. But now I'm realizing like I can prove myself outside of work as well as in the art world, and that has been really reassuring. But then when you go up to a booth at a con, or if you go to someone's website where you can just tell they're not really interested in their own work, or at least selling it, but even if it's really good, if they don't have that confidence, it can be really difficult to make the sale, because then the buyer, the potential buyer, might think, oh, well, if they don't even think it has worth, I might now see that art and think of this artist not having confidence. And I think that's the worst thing you could do behind a booth, is give the impression that you don't even believe in your own work. So anyways, I totally rambled there.
I think you're a pretty good person, though.
Yeah, I would like to think so.
Yeah, you are. I think that's probably why actually the follower thing is weird for you, because I think you don't necessarily always like that, but it's also something that you have to, because you built a career on it. So like you do in a way, you have to care about it. Like you can't get away from it. So it's like it's there whether you like it or not. And it's,
well, that's what I was talking about earlier with the imposter syndrome, is because like so much of my life was like revolving around hitting a certain Instagram number, feeling accomplished once I get to this stage. And then once I hit that, you then have this realization of, okay, do I feel like I made it? Like now where do I go? And then when you work on a piece that may be like more simple, like it's not like this big gaudy tarot card, like am I falling behind on what the perception of what I should be creating is?
I mean, that's where, I mean, it's hard for me to speak in this because I don't really experience imposter syndrome. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I think sometimes in my head though, I do compartmentalize things, and I know they say that's not healthy, but I think that's actually okay to do. Because like in this case too, I think you have to look at one as a career goal and one as like your art. Your art's its own separate thing from your career. It's so easy to say that though, because your career is based on your art.
Yeah.
But like the follower thing is like a very that's like your career. That's like your have to pay mortgage kind of things. Because you know, obviously the more followers, the more it's going to be easier for you to like pay those things like in the mortgage and bills, and like we have to get a new roof, so it helps pay for stuff like that too. So that's like two separate things, but they kind of are meshed together.
It is weird when your career becomes your financial income a little bit, because then what you create basically needs to hit certain marks, which is weird, because then your art becomes more of a commodity to be financially stable rather than it being like an outlet of personal expression. And that's always been a very hard balancing act. So I agree with you. You kind of have to separate it, and you have to trust that money is kind of a byproduct of, well, the way that I've convinced myself to look at it is like a byproduct of great art. And if you can just focus on creating art that is and it doesn't even like when I say great, I don't mean like it has to be cathedral, you know, worthy, like for the gods, like super full and complex. I just mean usually when I say great art, I mean like authentic. When you create authentic art and it speaks volumes to people that look at it, to me that is success. And I just have to remind myself that I can't be working for a paycheck, and that there will be times where I might have to like create a pin or something that is purely like a financial, but I can never relinquish what art really means to me, or else then I'll really lose. Like then it's game over.
You've never experienced imposter syndrome? Yeah, I don't think I have. I mean, I think I struggle with like not feeling good enough for relationships or stuff like that, but I think that comes down to more self-confidence than like imposter syndrome. Yeah. When I hear some people talk about it, sometimes I'm like, I think they're experiencing more self-confidence issues rather than imposter syndrome. But that's where like the two and two kind of, they're similar in a way though. Because it's, if anything, it's almost the same thing. Oh my God, it's the same thing. Well, self-confidence, because in a way you're not allowing yourself to actually be proud of what you've done.
Well, okay, wait, hold your horses.
Okay.
Because usually imposter syndrome, though, the way that it usually relates to people is if you've had some level of success already. So like usually people just starting out, they don't really, well, my opinion, not fact, but usually if they're just starting out or like they're very new to the game, they can't really experience imposter syndrome because you can't feel like you're an imposter embodying like some successful artist if you haven't hit success yet.
Maybe it scales though in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, you're probably right. Yeah, because you could just be like maybe 2 years into it and like maybe finding some levels of success, but feeling like you don't even deserve that.
See, that to me though is more self-confidence. It's like you have to find that confidence of like, I can actually be proud of what I'm doing. It's almost like you're talking yourself out of it or making reasons why you shouldn't be, but it's like, no, just be happy you're making it in whatever capacity you are. I don't know. God, I don't know. I always say this and everyone's like, oh, you're making it sound so easy. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it is difficult. I think it's a very real thing. But I think people throw it out, like the term out too soon usually.
I think because I've never had like a career goal in my life before. Like I've just never, I mean, I even told Tim, if I didn't start working for Tim, I would honestly be content working a 9 to 5. I wouldn't really care because a career to me was never like my goal in life. So I think I don't think I can even like, I'm trying to comprehend it, but I don't think I fully can just because I've never really like wanted to make it anything. I know that sounds bad, but
there we go.
What's happening?
Oh, that was weird.
Yeah, I feel like I've never really wanted to make it in anything per se. Maybe like, I don't know. I think I'm cheesy, but I think love's been always my thing. It's like I just want to have a happy relationship and like
oh boy.
You know, and I just love, so
oh, yes.
The best way to get to Tim is just be cheesy, lovey.
Yeah, not a fan.
That's like nails on a chalkboard for Tim.
Ugh.
But
I think my biggest nails on a chalkboard are couples that are overly PDA with each other.
Oh, Tim!
Oh, I will cut the stream.
Just cuts out right there.
Yeah, right. It just goes black. You're like, what happened? Honestly, this is kind of weird for this tarot card that I'm working on because I wouldn't take it much further than this as like a digital draft because I kind of know where the elements will go, and as long as the placement are alright, I mean, I might do more of a perfect star because I do recognize that the star is not super perfect on each side, so I'll probably redo that after. But this is kind of the level I'll take it to. The only thing I will do before we cut the stream out, because we still have about a half hour, so especially if you have any more comments or questions, feel free to ask now because now's your time. And it could be anything, even if it's more art business question or inspiration ones, because I feel like that's kind of the mood of today's stream. Feel free to ask them now because we got 29 more minutes. But Josh, if you could take a picture of my hand, I'll kind of show you guys how I would look at this as a reference and then integrate it into the drawing itself.
I don't have my phone. Oh, there it is. It's under the book.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Okay, so like I know that the hand is cupping the pentacle, or
Cupping the pentacle.
that sounds bad.
That does sound really bad, but it makes sense. At least it's not cupping the cup. Probably more down.
Let me see. Yeah, way more down.
Okay.
So usually I'm pretty good at understanding my hand positions and the pose of things.
We should get something round for you to hold. Okay. Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Let me stick my thumb out a little bit more. Right now it's like curled in. Let me thumb it out.
Okay. Stop.
Sorry. Things that sound dirty but aren't, you know.
Gorgeous.
Hand modeling 101.
All right, that was like 10 shots.
Yeah, okay. Send this to my Mac.
Airdrop.
So I will pull in the picture of my hand, and obviously I'll do more of the detailing when it is my stage in doing the pencil, but for now I'll allude to what will be happening with the hand.
Ella says, I have imposter syndrome with everything, even things like my mental health. Like, I know I'm depressed, but sometimes I feel like I'm tricking people to think I have bad mental health. But it's definitely real. I guess I actually feel that one, though, sometimes, where you can feel like... See, I think that comes down to being more... For me, I feel like that's just my more anxious side, where I, like, tend to overthink everything I'm doing. But... I guess maybe in a way that I've experienced it in like those ways then. Cause like I get the whole even like expressing something that bothers you, sometimes you can feel like, oh, I'm doing this. It can feel like you're trying to manipulate when you're not, but I don't know. I get what you're saying about that. Especially with like mental health things too, expressing it.
So, okay, wait, really quick before you answer or ask this question.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, here I can see my palm was way too thick and my thumb is too small. So then using a reference like this, I'm not going to use it exactly. Like, I'm not going to, I like the position of the hand that we originally had, but I am going to change the proportions of things. And then it gives me a good clue as to where the wrinkles are and, like, where the indication of the thumbnail should be. So I always say if you include like a physical body in your work, whether it's, I mean, the whole character or like specific parts like a hand or a leg or the face, definitely take reference photos. It takes like what you just saw, like a minute, and it will save you a lot of time trying to do the details in the long run. Okay, now we're good.
Okay. But when it comes to the imposter syndrome with mental health thing, I think when I think about that, I just think nowadays, especially, like, knowing you, Ella, you're just a really kind, good person, and I think you want to, like, make sure you show that to the world, because that's my thing, too, is, like, I want to make sure I emit, like, kindness and love into the world. So when you're having a bad day or something, you're trying to express that, you can feel like it's counter to maybe what you're trying to project into the world. I don't know. I don't even know how I'm trying to say it. It can feel like you're manipulating, though, like... how people are supposed to see you, I guess.
You don't want to see people to see you in a negative light because you build yourself so much around being a positive person.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably why I've been called fake in the past. And I know you've had friends too that experienced that too. And it's like,
oh, cat, yeah. I
think when you try to admit very like kindness and stuff in the world, people can see that as fake sometimes. But for me, it's like I tend to be more open with people I trust. So if I'm having a bad day, if there's something going on in my life, I tend to be very picky about who I express that to. Mostly because I don't want to like burden people with my problems either. But when I do end up burdening people with my problems, then I do sometimes get that feeling of like, I'm just doing this for either attention or I'm doing it to manipulate people. I can have those thoughts in my head, and it's not like a, I don't know. Then yeah, maybe that's an imposter syndrome then in a way where I feel like, am I really generally? I see that more as just anxiety though.
I don't know what rant you're on right now.
I'm just okay. Tim just doesn't understand this part of it. I
guess
won't understand with your art. I guess you won't understand with the.
We know it's strangers. Even talking to Kat about it, it's hard for me to relate because that's actually one of the things I've never been called like in my life.
Oh, it's fake?
Yeah. Usually people won't like me because that like I'm too blunt or I'm opinionated or.
Well, that's. I think people see that as being real though, which it is. But I also think like
real.
I don't think not doing that makes you fake though.
No,
I'm just not a blunt person.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I think the problem with being too nice is then I think you do reserve yourself from being open with people. Where I do think people can sense if you're being like open with them, and it's not like real or fake. It's just how open you're willing to be.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, those aren't I think the best adjectives to use because I don't think you're a fake person.
Yeah.
But I think you are very conservative with who you open up to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I don't open up though because actually what Ella's saying though, I get that too, where sometimes you can feel like you're more tricking people, or for me it's like I don't want to make things like I don't like feeling like I'm just trying to get attention for my problems. And when I do express them, it sometimes can feel like, oh, I'm just doing this for attention then.
Like fishing.
Yeah, and I don't like that feeling, so that's why I tend to want to be more reserved with it too.
That I understand.
Let's see, I don't want to miss anyone's comments. Let me just scroll up a second.
Because we probably got like 10 more minutes of actually drawing, and then see if there's any last questions and then cut the chat. Actually, now that we are talking about Ella being here too, I think we do want to have an emoji contest in July. And we'll kind of revamp all the emojis on YouTube even. Because actually, Josh, if you want to put all the emojis we have currently.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of these we can definitely filter out. And we can definitely add some new ones.
Because it will scroll me down if I do it.
Oh, yes.
Felix says, I wanted my degree to be done already, but I switched topics and procrastinated, etc. So we'll still take maybe another month or so.
Okay.
That's not too bad. I mean, it's good to know.
Horrible.
Yeah, and it's good to know you're, changing things while you still can right now too. So like you're making sure you're getting exactly what you want. I'm sorry if I missed anyone's stuff. I'm trying to like piece through. Ella, I think I have for too long thought that being completely selfless is the highest kind of kindness. Like asking for things or asking for attention would be the opposite of that. Which maybe doesn't sound too bad, but there's a limit. Actually, yeah, no, I think especially the way I was raised too was, maybe it comes down a little bit of that too. Like being raised very religious, there was like a martyrdom in a way to like being selfless, of like taking on everyone else's burdens and leaving yours at the door, but there has to be a balance. So excited for the emote contest. Beb says I have the imposter syndrome usually when it comes. I have the imposter syndrome usually when it's about the academic world. Even if I know my work is really great, I still don't expect my name to be in a list or something.
Oh.
I generally don't think my work is enough to be recognized somehow, and always get surprised if it does. Yeah, I think that's like a good combo then too, of like imposter and then just finding self-confidence of like knowing your worth.
I can't hear that without thinking L'Oreal, because you're worth it.
But honestly, like life advice to live by.
That marketing strategy worked.
Yeah.
I can't not hear that without thinking of them.
Whenever you're down, L'Oreal.
L'Oreal. Oh, I kind of like the coin having its own little ridge, even on this ridge itself.
You
kind of see. Actually, this is a good trick for me to teach you, Josh. See, when you push a darker value, here, let me grab an even darker one in the middle here. See how on either side, then it creates this little like ridge. It's like the dark is the flat, and then it creates a ridge.
Oh yeah.
So it's like an easy way to give it some more dimension just by putting a dark value. Or you can do the opposite. Like if we put a light value. You're right, let me do that better. See how it kind of creates a darker rim then? Tricks of the trade. Yeah, I definitely like this looking more like a stony, like a giant flat coin made of rock, and this like hand is just bringing it out of the heavens.
I mean, I think you've helped me with some things too.
Oh, well, good.
Like the dishes. No, you're really Tim's really good at expressing, like, if you have a creative idea, if there's a story you have, no matter like how absurd it is, you're really good at just saying it and telling it.
Yeah.
And I think you've helped me with that. Like my own creative side, I think you've helped me to be more confident just to say it. Because I think I've always had this idea that my ideas are just not good enough. But now I feel like even when we were talking about Drawtober stuff, like I kind of just spill out whatever idea I have. And sometimes people are like, oh yeah, and other times they're not. But I used to feel so weird if I would like say something and no one responds to it. I'm like, wow, that's embarrassing. And now I'm like, oh, screw it. Like, I'm just going to say it. Maybe it'll hit. Maybe it doesn't.
If it doesn't, you just move on.
Yeah, and then I just don't care.
I mean, that's the beauty of, like, once you have enough self-confidence where you're like, you know what, not everything I say will stick. I think a lot of people have that fear of they don't want something not to stick and then looking embarrassed or, like, looking a fool.
Oh, I'd feel, if that happened to me in the past, I would feel so weird and, like... Like if I would say something and it goes silent for a second, like if you have an idea and you're like, everyone's gonna love this and no one loves it, you're like, oh my god. Like I go in that like hallway that's extending, like that me in the back of the hallway, and the hallway just extending, and me is just like, I just go to that place, and then now I just I
think it's because you realize like it's that level of self-confidence like we were talking earlier where like, you know, if it doesn't stick with people, whatever, like we'll move on. I think our brain and like our mind has a bad habit of tricking us into thinking like, well, that means all of our ideas are bad. Maybe I'm just bad at coming up with ideas. Maybe am I just like not? Then you like dig this hole mentally, and it's really easy to do that, especially when you're younger. But then as you get older and you become more tried and true, I think you realize like, okay, if that one didn't stick, I'll come up with another one. You know?
Well, that's where I think I'm understanding you a little bit more too, especially with the following you have, because I think you can sometimes notice like when you post something that doesn't get as many likes, there probably is that little bit of like, oh, people didn't connect with this one as much or relate to it as much. I don't know if
there's only a few times where I like really thought something hit, like I was really proud of it and didn't do well socially.
Oh, like you were expecting, oh, this is something that I feel like people will really resonate with.
But I'm at that age now where I do have like a portfolio of work behind me that I do feel pretty proud of, where if I have one that's a mishit, it doesn't tank me as much as it used to. The hit that I usually get is I should be better. And that's where the imposter syndrome comes in, because it's like I have a following on Instagram. It's not the biggest in the world, but it's enough where I feel that pressure of standard. And if I don't hit that standard every time, and I feel like that standard goes up a little bit every time I do like a milestone drawing where I feel like I really pushed myself. And if I'm not hitting that level, that's where I get a little more down.
Yeah,
but I don't usually see my like count hitting me as much as it used to, even like 2 years ago, 2 or 3, where now I'm like, it's a good sign of like, okay, step it up. And it usually is like more of a motivator rather than being like this total like, I'm losing it, I'm not as good as I used to be. Actually, I'm not going to work anymore on this digital draft because I feel like this is already further than I would normally go with a digital drawing. And usually I like to do more of the actual lines, not the shading, because I'd usually like to do all the shading with my pencil. But I kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of what it might look like a digital draft. And yeah, so from here we'll probably go and print it. Next week then we will start the penciling. But like I said, if you have any last minute questions, maybe we'll take like 3 more, let's say.
Yeah. Also, I've had this like, my back of my head's hurt for so long and I was so weirded out by it, But today a pimple just popped up back there. So
Oh.
that's been the reason why it hurts back there.
Who brought that up?
You know what? It's just like I just realized now that was a pimple.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like we're pretty much caught up. If I did miss something, I'm sorry. I'm trying to piece through because actually you guys had some good discussion going on amongst each other. Actually, Isa says, if you make the viewer feel something, you've done your job as an artist. I spent around 10 years using art as my emotional outlet, so it's like I can't make emotionally be charged work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough when your outlet becomes your financial security, because then you do feel like this pressure to perform, quote unquote. And if you're not, then it's like more than just your ego is at stake. Like you possibly might not be able to pay bills, which is not a great feeling. And as an artist, I think that pressure can be insurmountable sometimes. And you're just like, the weight of the world, you know, a lot of times we put it on our shoulders ourselves. So I think sometimes we also need to learn to take things off. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I won't say it, but balance. Felix said that that's my struggle with my bachelor thesis too. Total imposter syndrome writing an academic paper when I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing and literally no one wants to read this garbage.
Oh, that's a good example of imposter syndrome. Like you're in school and you have to like write this giant thing of what you've learned, and you might feel like, I don't even know if I did learn this, but I have to pretend like I do.
Probably that's where phrases like fake it till you make it came from too. Was like people that felt that way.
Yeah.
So they kind of just like,
well they have like the opposite of imposter syndrome, where they feel like, I know I'm not good now, but I will be. And I'm just gonna pretend I am now until I eventually will be. You know?
I mean, maybe they overcame their own imposter syndrome and came up with the origin of that phrase.
Well, I don't think people that have imposter syndrome had the fake it till you make it mentality.
Probably not, yeah.
Or I guess I could see what you're saying, where like,
maybe that's the way of them like reasoning with it.
Actually, speaking of neighbors cutting the grass, literally.
I swear they just did it like 2 days ago. They
love it.
I mean,
cutting
in
the
a way I
grass.
kind of respect that they take good care of their yard though. And they're really sweet. They're not really like, we have Tim's cousins come over and they can be in the hot tub sometimes at like 2 a.m. pretty loud. And these neighbors have never complained about it.
Yeah,
They're just true. Like, they're good neighbors. All right, final question though. Hello, Brenda asks, what's the hardest or biggest struggle faced at art school? What was the best thing you learned?
Oh, life drawing, 100%. I don't think there's anything that teaches you quicker and like with such clarity what you need to improve on than life drawing did for me. And maybe this is more of a personal answer, but I really did believe my anatomy, my proportion, even value, understanding light and shadows, understanding forms and like the nuances in the forms as life drawing. So if you guys are going to art school, really be present for the life drawing sessions, and take note of the people around you, because usually they have everyone like hang up their stuff on a wall after each session, and then they usually like critique and like what they thought was the best ones, what ones maybe need improvement on, and be really open and receptive to see what the good critiques are, and especially look at how people are interpreting the forms. And I learned so much just from seeing how other people saw how to add value on human form, where I'm very like realism. Some people are more interpretive, and I think a lot of that then created this confidence in expressionism that I'm not used to. So seeing all these different styles interpret the same subject matter was also very valuable for me. So yeah, I would say that was the best. Okay, are we good?
We are good.
Okay, so like I said, this was kind of an in-between stream. I normally don't do these digital ones because my screen always looks horrible on the stream. It's like a giant canvas of canvases. And next week we'll go back to the pencil drawings, and we'll be starting off on our pentacle, so our Ace of Pentacle. Why is that so surprising?
You erased it.
Oh no. So we'll start on this one next week. I'll probably work on, if you guys are interested in seeing me render, it'll probably be the hand and maybe the clouds, or the hand and the pentacle itself. So these elements. And then maybe the sunburst behind it, depending on time. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing that and watching it live and joining us next Wednesday for more conversation, I will do better at marketing it, because I kind of dropped the ball on this one because we're coming off of a lot of different work stuff. But as usual, thank you guys so much for coming to these live streams. Thank you, Josh, for helping mod today.
Oh, of course.
And thank you guys for the questions. They were really good and definitely kept in the mood of like being a successful artist, not only in terms of like financial gain, but also just in like being true to yourself, which in the long term is real success. Okay, so take care, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until next week, have a good... why did I say have a good... I was going to say have a good day, but I already said it. I was like, until next week, have a good day. That sounds weird. I'll say
have a good day. Just today, the rest of the week.
Today, but like
best of luck.
Thursday through Tuesday, the T through T, TNT. Not great. Stay strong. And if you are an artist and if you're struggling right now, maybe this is like a good sign that you need to hear of like, be true to yourself and stay diligent. So actually maybe timing yourself will help, but maybe see this as a sign to like kick it in gear for a week.
You're not an imposter. You're a beautiful individual.
I feel like we totally slashed the meaning of what imposters, and people are like, wait, what is it? We're gonna have to like Google it after
That's
this.
That's how you fix it. Just confuse everyone.
All right, take care, everyone. Until next time. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. 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 Bye.